Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Family Secrets Unveiled, the place where we dig into the shadows of the past to unearth truths that time desperately tries to bury. Tonight, we have a story so unsettling, so entangled in the cruelest twists of fate, that it will challenge everything you think you know about love, betrayal, and the very fabric of family. It's a narrative that slowly unravels, revealing layers of a secret so profound it could only be born from the deepest corners of the human heart, leaving a lingering chill long after the final word is spoken. Imagine a picturesque life, the kind you see in glossy magazines, a charming house nestled in a quiet, tree-lined suburb of Dallas, Texas, a successful husband, Mark, with a warm smile and eyes that sparkled with ambition, and a beautiful wife, Sarah, whose gentle demeanor belied a formidable inner strength. Their life was a tapestry woven with shared laughter, quiet evenings, and the promise of a future built on unwavering devotion. Mark, a prominent architect, was known for his visionary designs, his mind always buzzing with creativity. Sarah, a talented art curator, brought beauty and meaning to her world, her hands often graced with the subtle stains of paint or the delicate dust of ancient artifacts. They were, by all accounts, the epitome of the American dream, a couple envied by many, admired by all. Their home was a haven, filled with the aroma of freshly baked bread and the soft glow of lamplight, a place where harmony reigned supreme. Then came David, their son, a vibrant, boisterous boy who filled their lives with an effervescent joy that was almost palpable. David was their world, a reflection of their love, a living testament to their perfect union. From the moment he entered their lives, their focus shifted, their universe centered around his innocent laughter and boundless energy. Every milestone was celebrated with fervent enthusiasm, every scraped knee mended with tender care. David grew, transforming from a chubby-cheeked toddler into a bright, inquisitive young boy, his spirit as bright as the Texan sun. He inherited Mark's keen intellect and Sarah's artistic sensibilities, a perfect blend of their best qualities. His childhood was idyllic, filled with summer camps, backyard adventures, and the unwavering love of his parents. Years turned into a decade, and David blossomed into a thoughtful, athletic teenager. He excelled in school, was the star player on his high school football team, and possessed a charisma that drew people to him effortlessly. It was during these formative years that he met Ethan. Ethan was the new kid in town, having recently moved from a small town in rural Oklahoma after his parents' difficult divorce. He was quieter than David, a bit reserved, with a gaze that seemed to hold a world of unspoken stories. But there was an undeniable magnetism between the two boys. David, with his gregarious nature, saw something in Ethan's quiet strength, while Ethan found a sense of belonging in David's unwavering friendship. They became inseparable, two halves of a whole, their bond forged in the crucible of shared secrets, late-night talks, and the universal experience of growing up. They were the kind of friends who finished each other's sentences, knew each other's deepest fears, and supported each other through every triumph and tribulation. Ethan's parents were often away on business trips, making David's home a second haven for him, a place where he felt truly at ease. Sarah, a warm and welcoming hostess, embraced Ethan as if he were her own. She admired his politeness, his quiet intelligence, and the respectful way he always addressed her. She saw in him a reflection of the good values she and Mark had tried to instill in David. He often joined them for family dinners, his presence a comforting addition to their household rhythm. He would help David with his homework, sometimes even assisting Sarah in the kitchen, always eager to lend a hand. He became a familiar, cherished fixture in their lives, another son in their loving home. But as the years passed, a strange, unsettling feeling began to prick at Sarah's consciousness, a sensation like a discordant note in an otherwise perfect melody. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly, in the quiet moments when Ethan would laugh, or when he would turn his head at a certain angle, or even in the way he would absent-mindedly run a hand through his dark, wavy hair. It was a fleeting thought, a whisper of recognition that she immediately dismissed as a trick of her mind, a byproduct of spending so much time with the boys. After all, wasn't it natural to see familiar traits in those you care for? Yet, the feeling persisted, growing stronger, more insistent, like a persistent shadow refusing to be ignored. It began to manifest in small, almost insignificant details. The way Ethan's brow would furrow in concentration when he was deep in thought, a mirror image of Mark's own intense focus. The precise curve of his lips when he offered a genuine smile, a smile that seemed to echo her husband's warmth. Even the subtle way he would tilt his head, listening intently, an almost identical mannerism to Mark when he was engaged in a serious conversation. Each observation, innocuous on its own, began to coalesce into a disturbing pattern, a mosaic of familiarity that sent a shiver down her spine. The unsettling feeling reached a crescendo one lazy Sunday afternoon. David and Ethan were in the backyard, throwing a football, their laughter echoing through the air. Sarah was watching them from the kitchen window, sipping her tea, a contented smile playing on her lips. Ethan, momentarily distracted, stumbled, and as he regained his balance, he turned towards her, a mischievous grin on his face. In that precise instant, bathed in the golden afternoon light, something shifted within Sarah. The angle of his jaw, the shape of his eyes, the almost imperceptible dimple that appeared when he smiled, it was as if she was looking at a ghost. A ghost of her husband, Mark, but a younger, more vibrant version. The resemblance was no longer subtle. It was stark, undeniable, a sudden punch to her gut that left her breathless. It wasn't just a passing similarity, it was an uncanny, almost identical replication of the man she had loved, the man she had built her life with. A cold dread seeped into her bones, a premonition of something deeply, terribly wrong. The world seemed to tilt on its axis, and the comforting familiarity of her life suddenly felt like a fragile illusion, about to shatter into a million pieces. The question that had been lurking in the deepest recesses of her subconscious now screamed into the forefront of her mind, a terrifying, impossible thought that she desperately tried to push away. Could it be? The mere suggestion felt like an act of betrayal against everything she held dear, a monstrous accusation against the man she adored. But the image, the undeniable, striking resemblance, refused to fade. It clung to her, a chilling whisper of a secret waiting to be uncovered, a secret that threatened to tear her perfect world apart. She felt a tightening in her chest, a sudden, inexplicable fear that something profound and terrifying was about to be revealed, something that would irrevocably alter the course of her life. The unsettling observation lingered, a persistent thorn in Sarah's mind. The comfortable routine of her life, once a source of solace, now felt like a fragile veneer, concealing a truth she was terrified to uncover. She tried to rationalize it away, blaming her overactive imagination, the natural human tendency to seek patterns where none existed. But the more she tried to dismiss it, the more the resemblance between Ethan and a young Mark asserted itself, popping up in unexpected moments, in fleeting glances, in the timbre of Ethan's voice when he spoke with a certain earnestness. It was a shadow that lengthened with each passing day, casting a pall over her once bright world. Sarah began to observe Ethan with a new, scrutinizing gaze, a secret investigation conducted in the quiet corners of her mind. She watched him interact with Mark, searching for any subtle cues, any shared mannerisms beyond the obvious physical likeness. She saw the easy camaraderie between them, the comfortable banter, the genuine affection. Mark, ever the generous host, treated Ethan like another son, often taking him along on fishing trips with David or including him in family outings to the Dallas Arboretum. There was nothing outwardly suspicious, nothing to confirm her burgeoning fears. Yet, the unease persisted, a dull ache in her chest. One evening, Mark was out late at a work event, and David was at a friend's house. Sarah and Ethan were the only ones home. Ethan was in the living room, absorbed in a book, the lamplight casting a soft glow on his profile. Sarah, pretending to read a magazine, watched him. He had a habit of biting his lower lip when he was concentrating, a mannerism so uniquely Mark's that it sent a jolt of recognition, cold and sharp, through her. Her heart pounded in her chest. She needed to know more, needed to confirm or deny this monstrous hypothesis. It felt like an illicit desire, a betrayal of her love for Mark, but the compulsion was overwhelming. "Ethan," she began, her voice a little too casual, a little too strained. You remind me so much of a younger version of Mark." Ethan looked up, a faint blush coloring his cheeks. "Really, Mrs. Miller? I guess I've heard that before. Some people say I have a similar build." He chuckled, a sound that was innocent enough, but to Sarah's ears, it held a strange, unsettling resonance. "No, not just the build," Sarah pressed, trying to keep her voice even. "More, the way you carry yourself. Your expressions. Even your eyes." She found herself staring intently into his eyes, searching, hoping to find a difference, any difference, that would shatter this terrifying illusion. But all she saw was a familiar warmth, a familiar depth that mirrored Mark's own. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, his gaze dropping to his book. "I suppose I'm just lucky to have good genes," he said, a forced lightness in his tone. "Both my parents are pretty good-looking, I guess." The conversation fizzled, leaving Sarah more unsettled than before. Ethan's discomfort, however subtle, only fueled her suspicions. Why would he be uncomfortable? Was it just teenage awkwardness, or was there something more? The questions gnawed at her, turning in her mind like a relentless carousel. Driven by an insatiable need for answers, Sarah began to delve into the past. She started with old photographs, pictures of Mark from his college days, his early career. She meticulously compared them to recent photos of Ethan, scrutinizing every angle, every feature. The more she compared, the more the similarities screamed at her. The same strong jawline, the same prominent nose, the same thoughtful curve of the mouth. It was as if time had played a cruel trick, cloning her husband, but a generation later. Her investigation then led her to the internet, to the vast, endless repository of information that could either confirm her fears or finally lay them to rest. She started by subtly searching for information about Ethan's family, his parents. She knew their names, Richard and Carol Jenkins, from casual conversations. She found their social media profiles sparse and professional. No dramatic family history, no hidden past that immediately jumped out. But then, a name caught her eye in an old newspaper article about a local charity event in Oklahoma. Richard Jenkins, formerly of Crestwood, Ohio. Ohio. A small, insignificant detail, perhaps. But Crestwood, Ohio, was where Mark had gone to college. It was a faint whisper, a mere coincidence, but it sent a fresh wave of unease through Sarah. She knew Mark had a complicated past, a period of his life he rarely spoke about, often dismissing it as just college shenanigans. He had hinted at a tumultuous relationship in his early 20s, a relationship that had ended badly, leaving him with a lingering sense of regret he never fully articulated. He had always been vague about the details, attributing his silence to the passage of time and the desire to leave the past behind. Sarah had always respected his privacy, trusting in the strength of their present love. Now, that trust felt like it was crumbling. Her heart pounding, Sarah deepened her search, using keywords like Mark Miller, Crestwood, Ohio, and Richard Jenkins, Crestwood, Ohio. She uncovered a digitized yearbook from Crestwood University from the year Mark would have graduated. Flipping through the digital pages, her fingers trembling, she found Mark's picture, his youthful face beaming with optimism. A few pages later, she found Richard Jenkins, his face younger, less etched with the lines of time, but undeniably recognizable. They had been in the same graduating class. A chill snaked down her spine. The coincidence was too great to ignore. But then, the most chilling discovery of all. Tucked away in the archive section of the university's online newspaper, an article from nearly 20 years ago, detailing a student art exhibition. Among the featured artists was a Carol Adams, known for her evocative landscape paintings. Below her name, a photograph. A younger Carol, vibrant and smiling, standing next to one of her paintings. And standing beside her, a young Mark Miller, his arm casually draped around her shoulders, a tender, intimate gesture. The caption identified him as her fellow art student and close companion. Sarah stared at the screen, her breath catching in her throat. Carol Adams. Carol Jenkins. It couldn't be a coincidence. The woman in the photograph was undoubtedly Ethan's mother. The tender intimacy in the photograph, the way Mark looked at Carol, was undeniable. It was a look Sarah recognized, a look of profound affection, a look Mark had once reserved exclusively for her. The pieces of the puzzle, once scattered and seemingly unrelated, were now falling into place with a terrifying precision. Mark and Carol, college sweethearts. Then, the cryptic mention of a tumultuous relationship, a bad breakup. And now Ethan, Carol's son, bearing an uncanny resemblance to Mark. The implications were staggering, a betrayal that echoed across 2 decades, a secret meticulously guarded. The weight of the revelation pressed down on her, suffocating her with its implications. Her perfect life, her perfect marriage, suddenly felt like a house of cards, teetering on the brink of collapse. The man she loved, the father of her child, had a past far more tangled and profound than she had ever imagined. And that past, it seemed, had just walked back into their lives, in the form of their son's best friend. The realization hit her with the force of a physical blow, leaving her reeling in a vortex of confusion, anger, and a devastating sense of betrayal. The discovery of the old photograph and the undeniable connection between Mark and Carol, Ethan's mother, shattered the illusion of Sarah's perfect life. The air in her once loving home now felt thick with unspoken truths, each breath a struggle against the suffocating weight of suspicion. She moved through her days in a haze, the once vibrant colors of her world muted by the growing dread in her heart. Every glance at Mark, every interaction with Ethan, was filtered through this new, terrifying lens. The man she thought she knew, the man she had loved unconditionally for over 2 decades, was now a stranger, veiled in secrets. She tried to confront Mark, to gently probe, but the words caught in her throat. How do you ask the man you adore if he has a secret child, a child who has been living in your house, eating at your table, becoming a part of your family? The accusation felt too monstrous, too likely to destroy everything they had built. She needed more proof, something undeniable, something that would leave no room for doubt or denial. The thought of losing Mark, of tearing their family apart, was a paralyzing fear, but the thought of continuing to live a lie was even more unbearable. Sarah's mental state began to fray. Sleepless nights were filled with replaying conversations, analyzing gestures, searching for any detail she might have missed, any clue that could have revealed this profound deception earlier. She started avoiding Ethan, finding excuses to be out of the house when he came over, or retreating to her studio. The warmth she once felt for him had curdled into a complex mix of fear, anger, and a strange, maternal pity. He was an innocent in this tangled web, a victim of circumstances beyond his control. Yet, his very presence was a constant, painful reminder of Mark's betrayal. One afternoon, a package arrived for Mark, a box of old college memorabilia from his mother's attic. As Sarah helped him sort through it, a worn leather-bound journal fell out. Mark snatched it quickly, a flicker of something she couldn't quite decipher. Panic? Regret? Crossing his face. Just old school notes, he mumbled, tucking it away. But the damage was done. Sarah had seen the date on the cover, the exact years Mark and Carol were in college together. Her resolve hardened. She knew what she had to do. Later that night, after Mark had fallen asleep, Sarah crept out of bed. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a drumbeat of fear and determination. She found the journal in Mark's study, tucked away in a locked drawer. She had known the combination for years, a relic from a time when they shared everything, when there were no secrets between them. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The journal was a confessional, a raw, unfiltered account of Mark's tumultuous college years. Page after page detailed his passionate, all-consuming love affair with Carol. He wrote of their dreams, their plans for a future together, a future that mirrored the life he had built with Sarah. The words were a knife twisting in her gut, each sentence a fresh wound. He described Carol's artistic spirit, her vibrant laughter, her gentle touch. The painful irony was not lost on Sarah. Mark had once described her in almost identical terms. Then, she found the entries about the breakup. It wasn't a mutual decision, but a devastating revelation. Carol had discovered she was pregnant. Mark, young and terrified, had reacted with panic, not love. He had urged her to consider other options, to terminate the pregnancy, convinced their lives would be ruined. Carol, heartbroken and resolute, had refused. They had a furious, painful argument, after which Carol disappeared, cutting off all contact. Mark's entries were filled with regret, with his desperate attempts to find her, his growing despair. He wrote of his belief that she had moved away, possibly even had the baby, but he had never known for sure. He had convinced himself that she had chosen a new life, a new path, and that he had no place in it. He had buried the memory, compartmentalized the pain, and eventually moved on with his life, meeting Sarah a few years later. He had built a new life, a new family, meticulously erasing the ghosts of his past. Sarah closed the journal, her hands shaking so violently she could barely hold it. The truth, stark and brutal, laid bare before her. Ethan was Mark's son. Not just a friend, not just a boy who resembled her husband, but his biological child. The revelation hit her with the force of a tidal wave, sweeping away all the carefully constructed foundations of her existence. The betrayal was not just emotional, it was a profound deception that had intertwined their lives with a hidden history. The next morning, the house was thick with unspoken tension. Sarah sat at the breakfast table, a cold, empty feeling in her stomach. Mark, oblivious to her sleepless night and monumental discovery, ate his toast, discussing his plans for the day. David was still asleep. Sarah took a deep breath, her voice trembling slightly as she finally spoke. "Mark," she said, her voice barely a whisper, yet it cut through the morning silence like a shard of glass. "We need to talk. About Carol. And Ethan." Mark froze, the toast halfway to his mouth. His face drained of color, his eyes widening in a mixture of shock and dawning horror. He looked like a deer caught in headlights, every inch of him screaming guilt. He knew. He finally knew that his carefully constructed world was crumbling. What are you talking about, Sarah?" he stammered, his voice hoarse. He tried to feign ignorance, to recover his composure, but the tremor in his hands, the frantic look in his eyes, betrayed him. Sarah pushed the journal across the table, its worn leather cover a silent accuser. "I read it, Mark. All of it. From start to finish." Her voice, though soft, was laced with an icy edge he had never heard before. "Tell me, Mark. Did you ever wonder why your son's best friend looks exactly like you?" The silence that followed was deafening, heavy with the weight of 2 decades of lies. Mark's facade crumbled completely. He slumped back in his chair, his head in his hands, a broken man. "Sarah, I don't know what to say. Don't you, Mark?" Her voice rose, edged with a pain that was almost unbearable. How could you let him into our lives? How could you watch him, be around him, knowing who he was? Knowing he was your son?" Tears streamed down her face, tears of anger, betrayal, and profound sorrow. The man she loved, the father of her son, had kept a secret that had fundamentally altered the course of their lives. A secret that had unknowingly placed his biological son, the product of a past love, right into the heart of their family. The ultimate betrayal. The ultimate twist of fate. And in that moment, Sarah knew, with a chilling certainty, that their lives, her life, would never be the same again. The perfect picture they had painted was now irrevocably stained, a masterpiece marred by a hidden truth that had finally, devastatingly, come to light. The consequences, she knew, would be far-reaching, impacting not just her and Mark, but their son David, and the innocent young man, Ethan, who was unknowingly at the center of this devastating family secret. The revelation hung in the air, a poisonous gas suffocating the remnants of their shared life. Mark, broken and defeated, finally confessed everything, filling in the gaps that the journal had left. He spoke of his youthful arrogance, his fear, and the devastating regret that had haunted him for decades. He admitted to seeing the resemblance in Ethan, the chilling familiarity that had always pricked at his conscience, but he had dismissed it as impossible, a cruel trick of his mind, a lingering guilt from his past. He had convinced himself that Carol had moved on, found happiness elsewhere, and that bringing up the past would only cause more pain. He had chosen silence, a decision that had now exploded into their lives with catastrophic force. His words were punctuated by his own tears, by pleas for forgiveness, but Sarah could only hear the hollow echo of a lifetime of deception. The ensuing weeks were a blur of emotional turmoil. Sarah, reeling from the betrayal, felt a profound sense of loss. Not just the loss of her husband's trust, but the loss of the life she thought she had, the foundation of her reality crumbling beneath her feet. David, their beloved son, was caught in the crossfire. When the truth was gently, painfully revealed to him, his world, too, was shaken. The news that his best friend, his brother in all but blood, was actually his half-brother, the son of his own father and another woman, was a shock that no teenager should have to bear. He reacted with a mixture of confusion, anger, and a heartbreaking sense of betrayal, not just from his father, but from the universe itself for orchestrating such a cruel trick of fate. The most difficult conversation, however, was with Ethan. Sarah, her voice trembling but resolute, sat him down and, with Mark by her side, laid bare the devastating truth. Ethan, a bright and sensitive young man, listened in stunned silence, his face paling with each word. The revelation that the man he admired, the father figure he had subconsciously sought, was his biological father, and that his own mother had kept this secret from him his entire life, was a gut-wrenching blow. He felt a profound sense of displacement, of his entire identity being called into question. The boy who had sought a sense of belonging in David's family now discovered he had always been a part of it, yet in the most agonizing, clandestine way. He felt a swirling vortex of emotions, confusion, anger towards both his parents, a deep sadness for the years of lost truth, and a strange, hesitant connection to Mark, a connection he had always felt but never understood. The family was irrevocably fractured. Sarah, unable to reconcile with Mark's deception, decided she needed space. She moved into her art studio, a quiet retreat where she could process the seismic shifts in her life, to rebuild herself piece by piece. She still loved Mark, the man she married, but the man who had kept this secret was a stranger. She sought solace in her art, pouring her raw emotions onto canvas, each brushstroke a testament to her pain and resilience. Mark, devastated by the fallout, embarked on a journey of atonement. He sought counseling, grappling with the profound impact of his past choices. He made attempts to connect with Ethan, to build a relationship from scratch, filled with apologies and a desperate hope for forgiveness. Ethan, still reeling, was cautious, his trust shattered. He needed time, space, and a profound understanding of who he was, now that his personal history had been rewritten. He began seeing a therapist, trying to make sense of the new reality, to integrate this shocking truth into his identity. His relationship with David, though strained by the initial shock, slowly began to heal. The bond they shared was too deep to be completely severed, now just reframed by a new, complicated understanding of brotherhood. As for Carol, Ethan's mother, she eventually came forward, heartbroken and remorseful. She explained her own reasons for keeping the secret, the pain of Mark's rejection, her fear of disrupting his new life, and her desire to protect Ethan from what she perceived as a painful truth. Her confession, while offering some answers, did little to soothe the wounds of betrayal. Years passed. The initial raw pain slowly dulled, replaced by a lingering ache, a scar that would forever mark their family. Sarah and Mark never fully reconciled. Their love, once a sturdy oak, had been split down the middle by the lightning bolt of truth. They maintained a respectful, if distant, relationship, co-parenting David and navigating the complexities of their new family dynamic. Ethan, with time, came to terms with his identity. He forged a complex, evolving relationship with Mark, a father-son bond built on honesty and the painful acknowledgement of a lost past. He embraced his artistic talent, a legacy from both his parents, and pursued a career in graphic design, finding beauty and order in the chaos of life. He and David remained close, their brotherhood deepened by the extraordinary circumstances that had brought them together, a bond forged in adversity. The story of Mark, Sarah, David, and Ethan is a somber reminder that the past is never truly buried. It lingers, a persistent whisper, waiting for the opportune moment to erupt and reshape the present. It speaks to the destructive power of secrets, the fragile nature of trust, and the enduring strength of the human heart to navigate even the most profound betrayals. It's a testament to the fact that, even in the face of devastating truths, life finds a way to move forward, scarred but perhaps, ultimately, stronger. This isn't a story with a neat, happy ending, because life rarely is. It's a story about the messy, complicated, and often heartbreaking reality of family secrets unveiled. And that, my friends, is another chilling tale from the archives of Family Secrets Unveiled. If this story resonated with you, if it left you pondering the secrets hidden within your own family trees, please take a moment to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel for more true stories that defy belief. And don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss another deep dive into the human experience. Until next time, stay curious and remember, some secrets are just waiting to be uncovered.